Yes. Okay, so it says that it's recording, so I'm going to assume it's recording.
We're so used to how Skype works. The Zoom technology is so different.
Exactly. Okay, so welcome everyone to the next edition of Spinster versus Spinsters, and today it is the battle of the sequels. And the sequels up for debate are Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors, and Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. I'm dressed for the part. I've got my Freddy sweater. I always put those words together. Got my hat, got my glove. I mean, I'm ready to do battle.
Yeah. No one can see, but I am wearing a Nightmare on Elm Street black sweater, dressy type thing, and you can obviously see who I'm voting for this battle royale. I guess the way Kelly keeps promoting it on social media.
I like to have fun with these, and so if you don't already know, I've talked about my favorite sequel on the Pod and the Pendulum in our Friday the 13th. Nope. Nightmare on Elm Street. I've done this before. Yes. Nightmare on Elm Street episode of the podcast. I expressed my sincere adoration for the sequel, and I also wrote about it for the website. So, as you may or may not know. Oh,
I was just also going to say, if you also follow Kelly on social media, you will also know how much she loves this movie.
So for me, my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street sequel is The Dream Master.
And for me, because I am the quieter spinster and I'm not the one that shouts out everything that I love, I actually prefer Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors as the perfect follow-up to Nightmare on Elm Street 1. Still like Nightmare on Elm Street 2, but I feel like it's a different movie in its own regards.
Okay. So first off, Jess, a brief summary of why does this sequel stand out to you and why do you love this one so much? And then I think let's get into like the nitty gritty of the differences between them.
Okay. I was like, how can I summarize this up? I'll summarize this in this one line that I have in one of my notes, and then I can go into more detail later on. But for me, I feel like this film closes out the Freddy Krueger storyline perfectly. We get the main story closed out. We get, Freddy is supposedly killed by the final girl, Nancy Thompson. She has returned, and even in her final act, she was able to bring Freddy down. And I just feel like it just encompasses this beautiful story. It's not really beautiful, but this story of a vengeful spirit, Freddy Krueger, coming after and seeking revenge on the children of the parents who killed him. But then really they are seeking, they're seeking out justification of why they have to kill him themselves, right? Because he was a child murderer / pedophile or whatever. So to me, I just feel like it closes out the story perfectly.
Excellent. Do you have any special connection to it? And that's what kind of draws you into it?
Well,
I don't know. Do you?
I'm like, well, this is where the podcast goes from fun to serious. Being a child who has molested growing up, I like to see people who get their just desserts in the end. So,
wow, it got dark, folks. It got dark. But then she laughed, so we're okay. Okay. For me, again, briefly, and then we'll get into it. I grew up with Nightmare on Elm Street as an entire franchise. It's essentially my favorite horror franchise, especially of the 80s. And Nightmare on Elm Street 4 always stood out to me just in my memory of my nostalgia of growing up. That was just the one I always watched. I think it has a lot of heart, has a banger soundtrack. It's really fun to watch. It's really, really interesting. It's beautiful to watch. And it's just a whole lot of fun. Mm-hmm. And for me, I feel like what was started and created in Dream Warriors was then perfected in The Dream Master.
Ooh, that's a bold claim because I've got some things I want to talk about in regards to that.
Hold on, I got to get my cat.
This is the point of this recording where we see where I get to cut out the moments when Kelly leaves to deal with the cat situation.
Sorry. I knew that was going to happen. Okay, so that's our brief synopsis, I guess, summary of our favorite. And I guess I wrote down like a bunch of like key points of things that we can talk about. So let's say the movie opens, and I think Nightmare 4 has an incredibly well done, emotional, cool ass opening.
Okay.
Even though it doesn't really make a lot of sense, I understand that having Freddy just resurrected by flaming dog piss in a dream doesn't make any sense, but he's a hellhound and it's rad as fuck.
Okay, but is he? So that was my question. So I actually took a note down and I said, how does fiery dog piss bring Freddy back to life? And my question was it because Freddy was possessing the dog and by peeing the dog released Freddy Krueger back into his grave? And now you're saying he's a hellhound.
I don't know. Nobody knows. Rennie Harlan, the director, also didn't know. He just thought it was cool as fuck to do. And I agree.
It does lead to questions. And like I said, it made me being like, well, maybe Freddy was possessing the dog and then the dog released Freddy. And there we go.
Maybe.
Explains the fiery dog piss. Okay.
And then I'll say, okay, let's go on to premise.
Okay.
I really like what you said about it being kind of like it's kind of like a trilogy, even though Nightmare 2 is really its own kind of nightmare. It's its own story, its own kind of initial, like, separate solo thing. I do like what you said about it kind of like ending Nancy's story until we get to New Nightmare, but ending that kind of story in a really, like, thoughtful, poignant, interesting way.
Yeah, well, because it brings, and that's what I love about that is we get our final girl. She comes back and she has her, like she also
Final
kind of
moment.
Exactly, yeah, she has her final moment. But what I love about it is that when Nancy returns, she is as determined and as strong as ever. From the get-go, she is confident when she, comes upon the scene of Kristen having her meltdown and she's able to calm her down. And just like all throughout the movie, Nancy is on point. And it's amazing because she even says at one point in the group therapy, she's like, I dealt with this 6 years ago when he came around. I'm like, this was only 6 years later. I'm like, you are doing really well for yourself, like in terms of
yeah
condition. Like you should be suffering PTSD and just kind of be. But she's like, nope. I control my dreams. I control my life. And she doesn't freak out. I even love like the first time she gets pulled into Kristen's dream. What is do? She reacts. She attacks the beast. She attacks Freddy, stabs him in the eye, and then she grabs Kristen and doesn't even let her shock keep her like, oh my God, what's going on? Trying to figure out. She's like, Kristen, go. You brought me in here. Get me out of here. Like, and usually in situations like that, our main character's like, how do I get in here? How do we get out? We're lost. We're now going to figure out how we get out of here. Like, Nancy's like, no. I know how all this shit works. Gets me out of here. Like, she is a survivor through and through from the minute, her first minute on scene to her final act when she stabs Freddy. So it's like,
I would say, I love and agree that I think the main strength of Nightmare 3 is the fact that Nancy does return and she is as determined and as steadfast and confident and self-assured and practical. And she troubleshoots really well. Like you said, she reacts really well. She's proactive, let's say, and she's like less reactionary, more proactive. So that definitely, I think, is the huge, maybe for me personally, the main strength of Dream Warriors.
So then, okay. What do you think is so what do you feel is like the main strength then of? Are we still talking about Dream Warriors, and we want to jump in back and forth? Like, how do you want to do this?
Well, we were kind of talking about premise, and we kind of got into Nancy. So I love that it does. Like, I love that Nightmare 3 ends kind of that story. And then it brings in the new batch of Elm Street kids. And that's what it's like, right? We have our continuing characters, Kristen, Kincaid, and Joey. And as per slasher rules, you all have to die now. Yeah. And so they do. But that's, using Kristen's really fantastic, unique power brings in the new blood. And I like that because it kind of freshens things up a little bit. We got these new kids that are, in my mind, so incredibly likable. Those characters are so well written, I think, and well developed, and just also very interesting. And I think we definitely talked about this over at the Pod and the Pendulum, that they're this wonderful cast of like misfits that in reality would never be friends with each other. You know, the nerdy girl wouldn't be friends with, you know, Debbie, our like tough fitness girl who wears a leather jacket. You know, in reality, those people wouldn't really be meshing. They'd have their own little cliques, and that's kind of where they would stay. You know, Kristen as our like hot, popular girl, you know, they just wouldn't get together. And I love that they do. And it's like just normalizing that kind of situation. And everybody has such wonderful chemistry. So premise wise, I feel like, I like the premise of both, but with everything else that I love about Nightmare 4, that's definitely like just one of the things that I enjoy a lot is just like this new fresh blood. It feels fresh. Whereas I feel like 3 is a little, when I was watching it today, I was like, it's kind of cheesy.
Nightmare 3, really? I find it cheesy. Okay, so I think Nightmare 4 is cheesy.
Okay, so I find Nightmare 3 cheesy. You know, we got our fighting skeleton. The score at times is just like a little over the top and cheesy. And like Nightmare on Elm Street, it's a rubber reality, so it's going to be a bit cheesy, fantastical. But I feel like Nightmare 4 is just more rooted in reality for a rubber reality horror movie.
See, I think the total opposite. I think Nightmare on Elm Street 4 is a little bit more too, almost like a Freddy becomes too much of a caricature, and it's like, yeah, his kills are more imaginative, but they are more like unrealistic in the sense of, you know, the way that the kids are just letting themselves like fall asleep. Like they don't seem to really be trying too hard not to fall asleep. They just keep happening and they're like not defending themselves. Whereas at least in like, you know, we figured it out in 1, you know, Nancy's like, don't fall asleep. And she's trying to convince all her friends don't fall asleep. But then in 3, all the kids know, don't fall asleep or we are helpless. We need to fight. We need to figure out how to stay alive. And so in the 4th one, I'm like, these kids are just literally just cannon fodder. Like they're just lining up for Freddy and just making it fun for him. And the only person who's trying to be like, don't fall asleep is Alice because she figures it out.
Yeah. I did notice when I was rewatching 3 today that there's an aspect of 3 that I find, even though I think it's more cheesy, has a little bit of a more serious tone at the same time. And like, you really do feel the fear in those kids, which I enjoyed. So there is that element of heart that I think both films have, but you do see that fear, you know, that scene with Kincaid where he's like, don't you sedate me. No, I'm not falling asleep. No, I'm not going to do this. And everybody's freaking out because the puppet making kid, I'm sorry, I forget his name right now.
Philip.
But like, yes, Philip, he has just killed himself and like shit's getting crazy and everybody's already scared and now it's just escalating. And I hear you on that for sure. I think that because everybody thought Kristen was kind of nuts, unfortunately, though they were all friends with her in Nightmare 4, they didn't really believe her. You know, even though there were people that went through this with her, they all thought they were kind of spooky, right?
Yeah.
And they just didn't really believe her until, like, unfortunately, much later on when some of their friends start dying. To your point about him being a character, welcome to primetime, bitch. And he's in a TV? That is, he starts being a character in part 3, and then for like the rest of the series, he's this wisecracking, you know.
Yeah, and I will not disagree with that. I did say my first comment about my Nightmare on Elm Street 3 is this is when we start getting that killer puns from Freddy, and he starts doing, and then you know, and they get more cheesier later on, especially in 5. There's so many of them.
5 and 6. 6 is just like off the rails. Just like, they're like, we're going to be ridiculous. He's going to use a power glove. So it's.
Yeah. But at least like with 3 though, there's still that dark element of Nightmare on Elm Street there that we saw in the first one. And I remember bringing that up, like, you know, Freddy still remains scary. Like he's in Nightmare on Elm Street 3. I'm still afraid of Freddy because we learn more of his backstory. We learn about, you know, being the bastard child of 100 maniacs because his mother was raped so many times. And another thought too, when you went back to how like Kincaid was talking about like that actual fear, I started getting to like more like critical analysis brain and be like, wow, this movie is like a, you know, a representation of what happens to, you know, teenagers in when they're in like, you know, mental wards at the time, like how they weren't believed and like how they weren't believed and, you know, they're forced to sleep. You know, I love when they call out Dr. Sims in the group session and they're like, everything you're telling us is a bunch of bullshit. You were literally, and like Philip is like saying like, you're saying this, we're going to regenerate the same, like regurgitate the same shit you want to hear from us each time, but that's still not helping us. And then the orderly coming on to Taryn, you know, showing how the truth of how in like those types of situations, young mentally unstable women would be prey to men of that type who want to, you know, use their addiction or use their mental illness against them to get something out of it. And I was like, oh wow, that's actually really upsetting. It's very disturbing now when I think of it that way.
Yeah. This is not the critical thinking episode, Jess, so shut your brain off, shut it off. No, but that's it is really important. It is a dark, not episode, dark sequel. They touch on some really like unsettling themes that, you know, probably should be trigger warnings and content warnings for folks watching Dream Warriors 100%. Though Nightmare 4 has my favorite Freddy line of all time, and that's, "How's this for a wet dream?" Joey falling prey to women every time.
Every time. Like, you think you learned the first time. Nope.
Yeah. Don't engage with women in your dreams ever. Don't you dare.
So I think it's interesting. So I agree with you. Nightmare 4 does have the better soundtrack than Nightmare 3 in terms of the music. However, I did note that it makes the movie feel like has many music video moments.
Yep.
But there's more focus on aesthetics and like these scenes where like this music's playing for a while and it's like this whole like workout scene with Debbie or Ricky's like fight scenes. Or
it's Rick, not Ricky. Thank you.
Rick, sorry, Rick. Rick's fight scene, like, you know, like there's these scenes that are just like, it's like a music video. And I'm like, wow, this is really going for a while.
100%. And you're either going to like that or you're not going to like that. And for me, I fucking love it. That soundtrack, like, as we know, our 80s horror playlist is pretty much the entire Nightmare 4 soundtrack.
That is true. That's true.
You know, and Dream Warriors has Dream Warriors, which is like the more iconic song. So I'll give it that, and a music video. But it doesn't have an entire soundtrack in the entire movie that is fucking awesome.
What about the Freddy Krueger rap at the end of the credits? What the fuck was that?
Perfect for the time.
You know what? Honestly, I'm not surprised that you loved it because, like, you really like Slumber Party Massacre 2, and that's literally the same thing. Like, just music video scenes.
There is a common theme here in sequels that I enjoy that are tonally very different from the original. I know this. Hello, Mary Lou Prom Night 2, Pet Sematary 2, Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2. There is a theme and aesthetic and a thing that I like.
So, okay. So then my question is, because, like I said, I feel like Nightmare on Elm Street 3, it ends the series, ends stories, like, it ends Freddy's story really, like, well, and Nancy's story, in his origins. In Nightmare 4, and we'll see later on 5, Freddy starts to change. And this is what my question came up. Is Freddy Krueger no longer a vengeful spirit, or is he now a dream demon?
It's a whole new thing. Again, Nightmare 4 does not fit the canon. Again, Rennie Harlan, who directed this and helped put it together, was just like, whatever. He threw caution into the wind and knows it's not canon, but brings, and this is a big point that I love about it, it brings this whole, even though it's not entirely fleshed out well, new mythos to the character of Freddy. Instead of just being this, like, you know, vengeful spirit that comes into your dreams, he's like this, the gatekeeper of dreams, the guardian of bad dreams. And he's more of like this demon kind of nightmare dream creature, which Doesn't fit with the canon, but I love it. I love that they built this mythos into this movie, and along with the whole idea and concept of mirrors. And I am definitely writing about the mirror aspect of this movie at some point.
Okay.
Because it's fascinating, because Alice and Freddy's arc in the movie, if you want to give Freddy an arc, are directly like parallel to each other. He is an evil being, and his reflection is so disgusting and bad and negative and demonic and evil that his reflection will kill him. Whereas for Alice, she covers her mirror pretty much the entire time because she doesn't care to see herself. She doesn't want to see herself. She's not very secure. She's not confident. She's very shy, very introverted. Very inwards. I just stabbed myself.
Careful.
And then as she gains the abilities and gains her confidence, she sees that final wonderful montage of her getting ready to face Freddy. The mirror is completely open. It's uncovered. And her reflection in the mirror is powerful and gives her strength. And I just love that kind of like dichotomy between them. So in Nightmare 4, you have that wonderful concept of dreams and being gatekeepers of that. And then, the aspect of our internal selves being reflected back to us through mirrors, and that can either destroy us or it can empower us.
Okay.
Love that.
Yeah, that's great. Alice gets bangs. She becomes more confident.
Her bangs are always there. Her hair was just always greasy and it was always off to the side. But when you become more powerful and confident, you wash your hair and you just let the bangs fly.
Let the bangs fly.
Yeah.
That, and I guess that would make sense. I like, to me, I just feel like Nightmare on Elm Street 4, I walk away with more questions than answers. Because then I'm asking, because like you said, it's a new batch of Elm Street children, but these children are not connected to the original reason why Freddy Krueger was killing the Elm Street children to begin with. And so now I'm just like, okay, so he's a dream demon and has realized that he gains power from the children's souls, and that makes him more powerful, and thus, he's going to wreak havoc on the world, right? So yeah, like we end up getting two different Freddy Kruegers. We get this dream demon, and then we get the vengeful spirit.
Absolutely. And again, like if you're going to be somebody that's, going to be more of like a purist and you really want to keep within canon, Nightmare 4 is not going to be for you. Absolutely. I get that.
Like, fair enough. And that's why to me, like, sometimes I think of like Nightmare 4 and 5 to be like the side quest, Freddy's side quest from his main quest. Like if like, say like those ones came earlier, and this is what like Freddy was doing in the off season while Nancy Strawn or stuff like that, just terrorizing another group of children.
Oh boy. Well, so I'm gonna take this off for a second. So I've been really pumped up for this battle for quite a while. And I knew that my case was really, really strong. It's strong. It's going to win. But
we're talking two different movies, two different Freddys now.
We are. However, I brought backup.
Are you serious? Is someone ganging up on me? Are you? Wow, thanks.
Thanks. Nick is here.
Surprise.
Hello.
Surprise. Oh, God, I can't put my glove back on.
I'm being ganged up on.
No.
Yes. So folks that's listening and maybe not watching this, Nick Benson is now here, who did special effects work on Nightmare on Elm Street 4. So I brought him here to help build my case towards Nightmare 4 being the best Nightmare sequel, unless you disagree, Nick.
Well, I can't disagree. I'm biased.
You're biased. Yes.
I'm biased. I'm very biased.
I mean, you get to do all those great and wonderful special effects on Nightmare 4, which I do enjoy. Like, I do enjoy that Freddy's kills and the effects become more interesting and more entertaining to see. I agree.
Elaborate.
Thank you.
And I know I've talked about this before with Nick and everyone that I ever talked to about Nightmare 4, but the cockroach scene and Debbie's death in Nightmare 4 is my favorite. Besides Tina's death in Nightmare, the original, because it's bloody and brutal as fuck. Debbie's death is my favorite. It's, it's very upsetting. It's really interesting. It's scary. It's pretty brutal. And it's just really disgusting.
No, I agree with that too. Like, I even wrote that down. I'm like, Debbie's death always freaks me out every time I watch it. Just anything to do with the arms. And that's why, I even wrote in Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Philip's death is very upsetting because of the ligaments and
yeah, it's
anything to do with
brutal.
my arms. Yeah.
I think there's somebody waiting that can kind of see both sides of this.
Yes, I have more backup coming. Fix your bangs, Jess.
Thanks.
Hello, Mick. Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, am I on?
You are.
Yes, you are.
So, again, we are recording this for our more exclusive.
Posterity.
Yes, for our exclusive listeners and fans, but those that are just listening, Mick Strawn has joined in, and I wrote these notes because I thought I was going to get really excited and forget, and I have. Mick Strawn he was the production designer for Nightmare 4 and also the art director on Nightmare on Elm Street 3. So he can kind of go both ways in this debate.
That's right.
And just for everyone who's watching and also listening on the podcast version of this, I had no idea any of this was happening. So I feel kind of ganged up on right now. I feel like Kelly is brought back up.
Wait a minute. I just brought somebody that's done both movies.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is
So
true.
you're not
Thank you,
messing
Nick.
stuff on.
This is both sides of the equation. Jessica, can you get closer to your camera? I can't see you. I
can't get too close because
Are you afraid? Are you afraid? Are you social distancing from your own camera?
Afraid of the Mick.
I literally social distance from the world. So
No, I see. So we're all. I can't even do that. I can't get that far away from anything.
Even when you chase them down.
Yes, and God knows I've chased enough of them down.
So we had just started talking about the differences between the special effects of Nightmare 3 and Nightmare 4, and I'm the huge Nightmare 4 fan.
Yes, so am I.
Excellent.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
So let me sum the two films up for you, right? By all measures, Nightmare on Elm Street 3 is a better film. I mean, by every measure. Higher drama. The kill of Philip by itself is probably one of the best in the series.
very upsetting. Yeah.
There were so many things about it that it's a very heavy film, and the thing about Nightmare on Elm Street 4 is it doesn't pretend to be anything but just a way to deliver fast forward heavy metal effects right into your head. And it does it so well.
That explains a lot about why Kelly likes it so much.
I was gonna say, you nicely sum it up, right? Like you're just
Don't you
In your face, heavy metal.
It's very true. I feel
Like I
very
said,
seen.
There's
right
very
now.
lot. I was saying earlier, a lot of music video effects kind of happening in Nightmare on Elm Street 4. Music video moments.
Well, here's the funny thing is a lot of it also has to do with the nature of how they were put together as films. Because Nightmare on Elm Street 3 was it was a project of love by Wes Craven and the people that were writing it, and the script was kind of put together, and it was kind of ready to go. In fact, I had worked on the effects of it, on the mechanical effects of it with Peter Chesney, and we literally put the mechanical effects, the walls being broken out, the snakes going down, the Freddy snake, the mechanical part of it, not the snake itself, but the walls breaking and that sort of thing, and how we were going to work with Philip with Joey and the blue screen, all the rest of that. All that had been worked out to a T before we started. And then, of course, Chuck Russell came along and changed everything at the last minute because Chuck Russell is a dick. And this is just you and me, but Chuck Russell's a dick.
Worked with him before. I know that guy. A load of fun.
So that one kind of went together, and everybody wanted to have the right director, and they got Chuck Russell. But I mean, they had to put together everything, and everybody had a marching order kind of thing because there were three things that we were really trying to achieve. We were trying to stop that backward slide that we got with Nightmare on Elm Street 2, because that was more of, what happens is like the first one gets a certain, the first one is great. It's a new idea, right? The first horror film. But then the next one gets maybe 60% of that audience. And then the next one after that gets 60% of that audience and on down the line. And Bob Shea's question to all of us and me, because I was working on effects, and then I went on to like art direct it because it didn't really have a production designer. His question to everybody was, let's come up with different ways to do everything so that this is the best film we could make. And you had, so we came up with three basic things. As far as writing went, they brought in the idea that she can bring in more people into the dream. Mm-hmm. Okay. Which, Freddie was getting the Superman problem. And the Superman problem is this. Well, wait, let's ask Nick. Nick, what's the Superman problem? Come on.
Well, the Superman problem would be that he controls everything.
That's right.
It doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, you eventually have to go to sleep and then you're dead.
Yep.
So the Superman problem was gotten around by making it so that she could bring other people into the dream and that they could get together to defend themselves, right? Mm-hmm. So that was one of the main tenets of 3 and 4. Well, that was the one thing. The other thing is that we're going to let Freddie off the chain, because Freddie, the character that Robert was playing was deeply scary. But here's the thing: Robert himself is a hilarious character, and his body movements and everything. The thing is he had vocal movements that went with those body movements. The guy was just, he was a natural entertainer, and so they kind of wrote jokes and let him come up with stuff, like most of the stuff that was done in the studio, with Zsa Gabor and stuff. That was mostly done right there on the scene, right? And he was the one that was coming up with the lines and stuff, so we kind of let him off the chain. Then the other thing is we were going to bring it into the stage. Now, my concept was this: let's stop trying to do this all on location, and let's bring it for the most part onto a stage so that we can make the dreams. We can go a little further, as far out as maybe $100,000 will let us.
Because we are the Dream Masters.
Hey,
That's yes.
See, and all of that heaviness, all of that weight, and that going along with a kind of a deeply religious script, that created a very serious film that had a great sense of imagination. Now, then in February, we wrapped out the stages in December. In January, we did the reshoots for Nightmare on Elm Street 3, and then Bob Shea went out and got a release date for Nightmare on Elm Street 4 in August 18th.
Wow.
And then they handed us a like 60-page outline just at the beginning of the writer's strike in February, and said, Here's
Here's a movie.
Here's kind of a movie.
Yeah.
And the only thing, and the thing is, so we just went and spent money, and we just had it play. I mean, there was so much that was written by, like people that are on the crew, and like, the guy that took the trash out, anybody, right? But, out of all that, there's some great, there's just some great ideas. No great idea was turned down, and therefore, I never stopped working. They were like, well, this junkyard sure seems to be getting big, and I was like, oh, really? How big should it be? Here, write it down.
Well, one of the coolest things that I thought about 4 was that because of all of that, and that being that was the situation with going into a writer strike and everything, and you had the structure of the story, that it was really a huge collaborative effort between talent, effects people, everybody, to make this movie work. We didn't have a choice. There wasn't writers involved. So
here's what
everybody
I say.
collaborated to make this movie work.
Nightmare on Elm Street 4 was the best film that a crew ever made.
And I can see why Kelly would love it, right? Because that's her favorite thing. Group of people coming together to defeat
Fight evil.
It was this far short of Judy Garland and Mickey Rooney going, let's put on a show.
What I want to say is one of the things that, speaking of cinematography and usage of color, your background, Mick, is reminding me of this, but one of the things that I absolutely love about Nightmare 4 is that it is beautiful to watch. Like those dream sequences, the usage of color, of course, the reds and the greens, of Freddy's
Mixed
sweater. Ooh,
Yeah, there you go.
All mixed
beautiful.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
We went as far out as you could, and the other element of it, I mean, we had this great backdrop because we had the brand new thing of rock videos to be looking directly at,
Yeah.
Including the fact that we had a little known guy by the name of Kevin Benson that was doing the music for it, and Kevin Benson was one of the first guys that really went out into the real world, and Craig Safan did the music for it, but Kevin Benson did the soundtrack for it. He went out and found, bands that were just coming up and sucked them in and said, come on, you got to be in this, and figuring ways to bring them in for $5,000. Everybody got paid $5,000 to bring a song to the table. It was like,
Yeah. And that soundtrack, we talked a bit about it earlier, but what a banger. Like that entire movie is fantastic with this music selection. So well done. Well done.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, Kevin is amazing. Kevin has a great ear. Kevin was able to and he's a bullshit artist, God knows what Kevin told these people they were doing. Because I'm sure that at least 2 or 3 of them thought that they were literally bringing about world peace, or 8 pounds of coke, something like that. I mean, there was a deal there somewhere.
When they shortage of either one floating around.
Yeah, either one. Yeah, world peace, coke.
Why not both?
Yeah, why not both? Ain't nothing says you can't do both.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
just don't do coke and ultra slime.
That's right. Ooh, ultra slime.
What's ultra slime? Of course I have to ask.
What's ultra slime? Oh
Yes.
my God. You want to hear a story about ultra slime?
Apparently, because we need to know
you
the
wanna hear a
context
story?
of ultra slime.
This goes back to the cockroach sequence that we were referencing a moment ago.
If you remember the cockroach sequence,
We all do.
And Nick got an opportunity to torture Brooke.
Yeah.
Brooke these with and I saw this happen many times. Is like just would take like just a glob of that incredible, see, that's Ultra Slime. Ultra Slime is weird. Ultra Slime is not understandable.
Comes with a big warning label.
It literally says, we got a 50-pound tub of it, right? And it's clear. And when you open the tub, and there are instructions there that say, before you open this, you have to have something that cuts with you in order to deal
box
with
cutter,
it.
scissors. It only cuts with box cutter or scissors or a razor blade.
Right. Now, how many liquids do you know that say have scissors handy?
None.
You know, it would
But
be
it's
like
you and fun.
yeah, that's right.
Oh.
You know, think of opening up your milk and pouring it out and then taking the scissors and going, that's enough.
Oh my
Right.
goodness.
So this stuff is insane. I got 50 gallons of it, and I had gotten like one of those big construction drills with the huge paddle. You know, I mean, like literally the thing is like this long. Put that hand up there. This long, and there's a paddle at the end of it, right?
It should have been 50 feet long.
Little did I know. So I had a kid, right? That was a PA that we had to get it ready for the night. I mean, literally, it had just gotten there. You have to understand how much this stuff cost back then. It was these days, even now when it's more common, you buy a little tiny container like this big and it's $30 to $50, right?
Yep.
So we had 50 gallons of it. So I can say that we probably spent 10 grand on getting it shipped there and the cost of it, right? So that slime was
Just for
$10,000, right? So I leave the guy in the room right down from my office, like 2 doors down, and we literally, I put in a bunch of dye in order to make it look that orange color that it was, right?
Mm.
Which was, by the way, incredibly close to the actual color that was in the bottom of those things. And by the way, how amazing is, you know, that little Roach Motel thing? We literally just called up Roach Motel and said, "Hey, we want to use your name," and they said, "Great, we'll send you 10,000 boxes without the stuff in it." And they did, and they were everywhere.
Wow.
So I knew exactly what the color had to be, and I put in some food dye, you know, and I gave the guy a picture, and I jammed back down to my office, right, 2 doors down. Just as I get into my chair, all of a sudden I hear the screaming, "Oh my God, Mick! Come here, quick!"
Well, it was probably more like,
Oh no.
I was like, well, what the fuck? And you know what? On Nightmare on Elm Street 3 or 4, or either 3 or 4, it was just not unusual for me to get screamed at like that because, hey, you know, right? So
Yeah.
I tear out of my office. I go down the hall. I open the door, and here's what I see. There's a 50-gallon drum, empty. The slime, the pitch, because of the pitch in the blades of the mixer, it had sent, because it has no surface tension. That, you know, the things that you learn about certain chemicals as things go along.
Whoops.
This is like oh yeah, I'm gonna remember that. So the blades immediately sent all 50 gallons of it right up the snoot of the mixer, and it enveloped him.
Like in a cocoon. Put him
Like-
in a cocoon of that shit.
Oh
Little-
my God.
Little did I know.
That's why I
that
said,
Little did I know that probably Nick was working. Nick turned around and was working almost like 9 months later. He was working on The Blob with Chuck Russell doing the same thing.
Oh my goodness.
I was gonna say,
I
did it
just
turn
beat him.
sentient and kill everyone?
Oh, wait, we were working on a film. We weren't
Oh,
even sentient.
I'm thinking
What
about the
hell?
years of therapy that PA had to go through.
Oh
Oh my God. I can
Because
imagine.
so then he's just literally, the whole thing is just one big glob around him, right? Yeah, and I'm trying to clear it so his face is so that I can like comfort him, because I don't want him to fucking just go running around and lose my $10,000 blob of So then we got a bunch of those little paddles that you use for Bondo, right? Those little Bondo paddles. It's scraping down, and it took hours, and we were still doing it literally as we started filming.
Oh my goodness. Well, it makes you wonder, because like you watch that scene with Debbie when she gets it on her face, and you're like, oh my God, like that poor actress or whoever who's in the sun for her, like having to deal with that on her face.
Yeah, and because of that, I thought for sure that Brooke would never speak to me again after that, putting her through that shit. But she's awesome, man. She's just like, yeah, let's do it again.
It's amazing, because sticky stuff on your face or on your body, no, I would feel like you're suffocating. That's terrifying.
This is so far beyond sticky stuff, because like
it's ultra slime.
Here, let's put it this way. If you walked up to her when she had the slime on her and you put her hand on her face and then started to walk away, you would be connected to her even if you were in like the next 3 rooms.
Oh, wow.
It has that much elasticity. It'll stick to everything.
Oh, literally, and it doesn't stop. I mean, it is like literally that's why you have to cut your way out of everything with scissors. And it goes away.
Right. Just goes to show like how much work goes into creating just like one aspect of one effect. And I find that so fascinating. And you have to be so creative, and you did such a great job, for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, the thing that the Nightmares did best, and I really gotta, if you take the Nightmares, you're going to learn how an effect is set up, how, like I wrote a book about Nightmare on Elm Street 4 that kind of gets to the jigs of this, because it's interesting and kind of unknown. The things that really set some of the 80s effects apart is that we had gotten really good at combining things, and we had gotten good at the sequence that became something. And the thing is an effect isn't just an effect. I mean, that, you know, ask Nick about this. We had that sequence went over 3 at least 2 locations.
Yeah.
3 sets.
Yep.
It had rear screen projection in it. It started with her going up like this, right? And the arms break and the bug arms come through, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those were all gelatin arms, right?
Yes.
Because when you showed up on set, there was literally.
You know what? I think they were hot melt vinyl, but very similar material.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's right. That was when they started using hot melt, right?
Yeah.
There was a buckets of arms sitting next.
Kentucky Fried Arms, man.
No, seriously, your average bucket of arms.
Your average.
Great thing about it is in my book there is a photo of the bucket of arms.
Oh,
it's hilarious. It's just like
the things you see.
It's really fun to chase people around with them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So you had a bucket of arms. You broke these gelatin arms, and the
pincers.
The claws come out. So and here was the thing. I had trouble communicating with Screaming Mad George, because he wasn't a communicator. You know, actually, you know, it comes as my job to be the communicator. Being the production designer, I'm the one that had to go get and try and bring everybody up to speed and at least understand what was going on. And he's the one that I never understood, because he held out like a piece of silk, like a floppy arm, and then showed me this carapace wing, right? And you know, the fiberglass wing, and says, "Well, this is what we're doing." And I was like, "Oh yeah, oh I get it." Just no
But you
idea.
really didn't.
I really didn't. No, I really didn't. And I kept going down there. I went down there like every, you know, I mean, this developed over like development that I saw was like over a 6-week period. And I probably was there 4, maybe 5 times. And the last time I left before we were on set, and there was a question is like, "Are you guys all ready?" And I go, "I had no fucking idea because I don't know." Like, he's bringing some wings and a bucket full of arms. No idea, no clue. And the thing is at no time were all these things brought together, and the effect of the storyboards was terrible. I mean, the thing is particularly on that particular set of shots bore no relationship to the storyboards.
No,
I mean, not a bit. I mean, you know, you were like, wow, really? Because here's the thing. Every one of those elements was brought separately together. It's not like at any time there was a whole monster. There was like a whole cockroach. I mean,
yeah.
I had pictures of the whole cockroaches put together, but they were put together when they were up there. They weren't brought, you know, oh, here's one of those cockroaches you called for, sir. You know, it wasn't that way. So, you know, so you go through the she's
The
at
arms
the
break.
location.
The arms broke.
break through, right?
Then the bug arms. Then
And
she's
she
got the
goes
big
off-
bug arms.
Right,
The
and
big
she goes
bug
off
arms.
screen, and then
Right.
she's in that attic, which was like a set that was just like 120 feet long and went from all the way from like about half the height of a person to 30 feet high.
That was an awesome set.
And the idea of it, and they filmed it wrong because they got the concept backwards, you know. But the idea was that as she was running along it, she was supposed to be looking smaller and smaller, and it would have worked if they hadn't just gone with her aspect, but had come down and filmed it dropping like this. But you know, trying to explain things to a DP, and you're only going to get so freaking far. So the next set is her running down the hallway. But that is a great shot, though. It's her running, you know,
Yep.
and then she's in the room with all the goo down, which was a large version of one of those
Roach trap.
boxes. It was absolutely the same dimensions as the roach trap itself. And as we played the scene out there, I mean, even the relationship on her face of her relationship to the cockroach, George actually had taken the cockroach and done screens inside of it that were pulled off, and the screens were then soaked with the goo, the ultra slime.
Yep.
And as they're pulled off, then the last one that comes out actually folds out so that the last one is actually wider than her face. Because I've seen it, I've watched it before, frame by frame, and I pinned George about this. And how is it that it's actually wider than her face? So anyway, the thing is it was our turn to play. that whole film was about us playing. I mean, including the fact that the face of the Roach Motel, we just pulled a scrim over it and we rear projected the scene that Freddy looking in at it, right? So when you see the eye in there, here's the thing that's trippy about that. When you see the eye looking in the box, you could see that on set. You literally, they were playing against that eye on the set with the cockroach because it was done with rear screen projection as opposed to any kind of blue screen. Like it was literally old school, so that and the thing that was great is like as the camera started up, it had to be the sync. You had to turn the projector up or down to see it, and all of a sudden you would see a little bit of a frame, and then all of a sudden it would, as you slowed it down, it would open up, and then you'd see the whole thing.
Okay.
It was a trip.
Neat. I have a question about the bucket of arms, obviously. Was one of those arms used to be Kristen's arms in the fire?
Kristen's arms at the very beginning when she gets dumped in, right?
No, Kristen's death
In
in
her
part
room.
4 in her room when everybody runs into the room and it's engulfed in flames and there's like an arm hanging off the bed.
It wouldn't be the same thing.
Probably would melt.
Yeah, no.
Yes.
Actually, that was a set that we built in the parking lot.
Wow.
Well, we had
Fire scene, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
it was a fire scene.
Duh. Yeah.
You have to remember, we were trying to do things fast. We were trying to get everything all put together so that we'd be out and done by August.
And you need to remember, going back to what Kelly said earlier, you know, that we have to be really creative. You have to remember, as artists, we're half insane too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. And here, by the way, you see, you guys' answer to that is, well, you had an arm already.
You had a whole bucket of them.
And my thought was, well, you know, we'd have to shoot that at night, right? Because it had to be outdoors.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh
So
boy.
you get to know. It's funny. There gets to be like this whole inside lingo. You know, that you begin like all this kind of know that when Ultra Slime's on the set, you're like, oh, Ultra Slime.
Be careful.
Not that
Yeah.
shit, man.
Not that shit again. Oh,
Yeah,
God.
yeah.
I think I still have some of my butt crack from last week.
Mick, during my Googling of you today, again, I wanted to make sure I didn't forget anything.
You feel
so
violated, Nick?
your book.
Oh, I thought somebody stepped on my grave.
Danced.
Damn.
So yeah, I came across your book. So folks, that is called Behind the Screams, The Dream Masters Revealed. And that's all about Nightmare 4.
It is super hard to get a hold of. You have to get a hold of me.
Oh.
And then I have to decide, and then I ask you these questions 3.
I was just thinking, I'm like, you're gonna ask these questions 3. Is your favorite color blue?
Come on, yeah.
The other cool thing I'm gonna preach a little bit for him is he's in the process of writing the same type of book for 3. It covers everything you could possibly want to know and a whole bunch of shit you probably didn't even think to ask.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing. He's right, especially about that last part. It's things that you didn't think to ask. I see people writing books about films that weren't there, that get to spread the same bullshit. That they're just another human being in the chain of a game of phone, right?
Okay.
Yep.
And you will find that my book is not a game of phone. It's a bunch of guys that were there, and I know they're there. A lot of people didn't even know that any of those people worked on the film, right? It's just happened to be that I was there and I was tracking people down, you know. I have the first AD that was on the film that gave me a black and white shot of the cockroach. It's fucking amazing, of one of the cockroaches on the set with her looking at it from the other side. And it's really cool, and nobody knows that shot's out there. It just, she just happened to have it, right?
Well, that would be the interesting thing for both yourself and Nick, like to be able to tell stories from the ground, like from working on these sets and working with the actors and people and all, and, you know, the different stories that come up. Like you get that true, like that experience where everyone else, like you just hear the hearsay from what did kind of leak out.
Right.
I'll give you one that from Nightmare on Elm Street 3 that very few people know. When we did Nightmare on Elm Street 3, there are so many really hilarious stories about the sequence with the worm coming up, right?
Okay.
But one of the really funny ones was we did the mechanic part of the snake on the floor, coming across the floor, and then it heads up the wall, and you see the wall breaking, and the wall breaks, right? And then it goes back down again, right? And that part of the sequence, after the end of the show, I was originally working with Peter Chesney, and at the end of the show, I kind of went over and helped wrap some of the effects that I had helped set up before I went and art directed the show. And when we were doing it, we got a call from the editors that said, look, we have a problem with this shot that you guys might be able to work out. And the problem was this. The problem is that the shot itself is, how can I say this? The beginning of the shot, where it's on the floor, you're looking across it, right? You're looking across the floor. And because that's the primary camera angle, you don't see anything linear. You just see that it kind of looks like any California floor during an earthquake. And it's mixed, and then it goes up the wall, and all of a sudden you understand, that it's a thing. Well, they said, here's the thing: we understand it going up the wall because we can see it, going that snake-like pattern, and then across the other wall, and then down. Yeah. We understand that. The problem is the way that we're looking across the floor, we don't understand the same thing about the floor. And okay. Peter and I were like working it out. And when I said that the nightmares are a good example of how to work the overall effect, this is part of what I mean. We had to put our heads together and try and figure out a way in which we can communicate to you that there is a thing coming that is like a snake, right?
Yeah.
So we came up with an idea. We grabbed Peter had an old 35 millimeter Mitchell camera, and we threw a lens on it, and we set it down to look on the floor. And then I went across there was a secondhand store, because he was in the valley. There was a secondhand store across the street that sold rugs. Now, if you'd known the valley back then, every place there was a secondhand store across the street that sold rugs. It just was. I mean, it's like all I would have. Oh, you mean the place across the street? Yeah. Oh, that one. Okay. So I went over there and I bought a $12 Oriental rug, an old one, right? And we threw a bunch of leaves on it. And I said, we need a piece of rope and a Clorox, maybe an old Clorox bottle. And he got a Clorox, literally a Clorox bottle, poured the rest of the bleach out. And then we tied the rope to the handle, and we just rolled the camera and pulled the pulled the Clorox bottle underneath it, so that the Clorox bottle headed right at the camera. Here's the great thing. If you look at the film now, the very first scene that you see of the snake is actually that Clorox bottle.
That's amazing.
Wow.
So this is in the end, considering all the makeup effects and the snake and the eating, all the complications of that particular rig probably made it, an $80,000 to $100,000 back then shot, but it literally starts out with an empty Clorox bottle and a $12 rug, and that explains the whole shot.
It's amazing. I love that. I love how with effects that you can go from something like crazy, cool, elaborate, spend thousands of dollars to like something so simple as like a Clorox bottle just being pulled under a rug and be like, and everyone loves it. Like, that's great.
But here's what I'm saying is the thing is you have to know in your mind, you have to know how scenes put themselves together. I'll give you another really great example because Peter was involved in this too. when we built an entire on Nightmare on Elm Street 4, we built an entire upper theater balcony that literally goes up right on the side here like this, right? Now, Peter sold that with the shot of the Coke and the popcorn falling out.
Yeah.
Fantastic effect.
I was
Right.
thinking about that last night. Yeah.
Right.
He
But
still
the thing
gets
is-
phone calls and people asking him how that was done.
Right, exactly. And the other thing is that Lisa, you know how when the shot comes down and you see her holding the edge, right, like this, and being set towards the theater, we then took just that edge and we went down into Hollywood, and in Hollywood there was a building. Now I love this because this is a hard thing to conceive of nowadays, but there was an 8-story building on Highland Avenue, right at the intersection of Highland and it was right below Santa Monica. There was an enormous Beacons building, and it said Beacons Fur Storage in front. And what it was essentially an 8-story refrigerator.
Yep.
And they would store your furs through the summer. Can you imagine what that place smelled like?
Oh no.
I mean, I never went in it.
We didn't have to go inside, thank God.
Yeah, I never had to go inside. But think of what that place smelled like. It's just basically, it's an 8-story refrigerator full of dead animals, right? And the side of it doesn't have any windows. And what we did is we took beams. When you see her and you see her let go, you see her go past these beams. Well, we took the beams and duplicated the ones in the theater and put them down the side of that building, and that's a fall that she does so then we took that part that she's holding on to and we attached it to a crane, and she goes up with a stunt person goes up with the crane and goes up 8 stories and falls onto a bag. And so the camera is looking right from about
So that is an actual fall.
right.
Wow.
It is an actual fall, and the camera is on is up 4 stories looking at it straight on like this. So that it looks like it's going over your head and being sucked into the screen, and it's actually a fall.
Nice.
And I've had so many people call up that do effects say, "How did you did that?" It's a stunt.
That's amazing.
Speaking of falls, because I rewatched Nightmare 3 today for this, Phillips tumbled down into nothingness. What?
Well, that was actually just a pretty simple fall. In fact, I think there's one of the scenes in its recut version, you can see the edge of the bag come up.
Okay.
And then it's like sharp, crisp Blu-ray.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Blu-ray has a lot to answer for. Let
I
me tell you
know.
something. If you ever watch the Blu-ray of what's the one with Michael J. Fox as a werewolf?
Teen Wolf.
Teen Wolf.
Teen Wolf. On the Blu-ray version of him on Teen Wolf, it's wide, right, like this, and literally when he's surfing on top of the van, you can literally see the cop motorcycle on both sides with flashing yellow lights. Right? You're like, what the fuck is that? You go, oh, wait a minute.
Okay.
See what I'm saying? Yeah. So Phillips Fall. The interesting stuff was what happened before that. Is like the whole minute we made rooms and sent them to the I can't remember the name of the guys who was doing the pulling the veins out, but we did get to see as soon as they had done the makeup effects with the pulling the veins out, and they had done the Freddy head, and we had done the puppying of him through the hospital, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which was a huge rig with him, with a rig that rode over him that was holding onto the veins, as he's being pulled along.
Oh no.
I got to see when they first cut it all together, and oh my God, it was just uncut. It was like, you know, just the whole pulling the veins out, and it was so fucking creepy.
Oh, that scene is just creepy anyway.
Yeah, but seeing it uncut, seeing it like just put together from just the quick cut put together of like the whole thing. It was like, you walked out of the building, everyone's going,
Pulling your arms.
yeah, you're like this.
Oh.
I still think that just as a kill, you know, just as a kill itself, that is the best out of the whole
I
series.
agree. Yeah.
You know, it really it's just so dark.
Disturbing.
It's so disturbing.
Truly
Very
horrifying.
disturbing
And
too.
it's, you know, the thing is I think that Nightmare on Elm Street 3 gets kind of the better kills. But I think that Nightmare on Elm Street 4 was kind of the better journey, you know?
Yeah.
You know, if you haven't thought about this, Nightmare on Elm Street 4, it kind of happened on 3. But the imagination comes into the journey. You know, I tell people that the way that I designed the third one, it was very intentional. It was kind of like, you know, where all of a sudden one night you wake up, one morning you woke up as a kid and there was like this all of a sudden parked in the Kmart or in the Kmart parking lot. So I have to adjust this for younger people. The Kmart, and by younger people, I mean, you know, 30 and 40-year-olds as opposed to me. Kmart parking lot, you see a circus, right? You know, a little, you know, circus, right? And I said, that's what this should look like. It should be kind of that feeling of like all of a sudden this place is a circus, right? You know, and what was a parking lot is a circus. And then when I did Nightmare on Elm Street 4, my thought was, well, this one's Disneyland then. And you know, the thing is it really is. It's because the thing that is interesting is not the moment that they die. The things that are interesting are the journey on the way. I mean, think of Freddy. Think of like Kincaid dying. I mean, people complain that Kincaid's death was just right? You know? But here's the thing. He was there involved in the same sequence of Freddy coming together. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And Freddy's journey of coming from a bunch of bones that come together that magically reassemble themselves, you know, and a dog that pisses fire, and the dog is the only smart motherfucker out of everybody, man.
Takes off.
You know what the dog does? It's the dog leaves. The dog's like, you know what?
Fuck this.
I go this far, but as soon as I'm pissing fire, I'm getting the fuck out of here. You know, the dog was going down the line, pulling whiskers, going,
yeah.
But it's the journey. That's the thing. That's what Nightmare on Elm Street 4 is it's the journey. And a lot of times I think that we miss that because even the best kills, even the kill of the with the cockroach kill, it has a journey that's inside of it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that I've always viewed them as adventure films, maybe more adventure films than horror films.
Oh, well, we have somebody in the waiting room who will be able to defend Nightmare 3 with Jess, and I'm going to admit them now.
Okay.
Ira.
Ira.
Hey.
Eventually.
Well, he's trying.
He's trying. Now I'm all excited. I'm forgetting everybody's names. What was his character's name? I'm so sorry.
What?
Iris?
Yes,
Iris,
in Nightmare
yeah.
3.
Oh, the Wizard Master.
Yes. But I don't remember. Well, we'll call him the Wizard Master. Because I don't remember. I literally watched it today, and now I'm just like, I'm excited. I forget everything.
Hey, Ira, how's it going?
Ira!
Oh,
Hello,
yay.
How you doing? It's the Wizard Master.
It was a Razor can't hear us.
Oh,
Can you hear us?
we can't hear you.
Can't hear him. He might be muted. He might need to unmute himself.
Oh, do I need to do something? No,
Unmute.
he's still connecting. Okay.
Connecting naughty.
Oh, there it goes.
I'm in now.
There it goes.
Okay.
He's here.
Nice.
Pull your paw up and no, you got it.
Hey man, am I the
Hello,
only
man.
one Am I the only one repping Nightmare 3 because it's number 3 versus number 4? That's what I hear.
That's right.
It
Mick,
is.
Mick has done both, so he's
Yeah.
kind of on the fence here.
Mix
I
of
was
well,
events.
Thank goodness I got somebody else on my back here.
I'm Nightmare 3. 100% Nightmare 3.
You know, that poster behind you, I was discussing it with somebody the other day about how there's Ken Sagos is all the way on to my left. I
Yeah.
think that's Nancy in the middle. And then the guy on the right holding the mace in the air, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's me.
I think it would make sense for the
Doesn't
fantasy.
it? Because I'm the Dungeons and Dragons guy.
Yes,
So
yes.
Oh, yeah,
And only a
yeah,
D&D
yeah.
character would have a mace or know what that mace is.
Exactly. So Rodney Eastman always thinks, that's me, bro. That's me, bro. And I said, no.
Not at all.
Hey,
Not in 3.
All you have to say is, hey, you couldn't talk. How are you defending yourself right now? You couldn't talk.
You can't even talk. You
can't even fucking talk.
speak.
That's right.
So don't even think about speaking because you can't. And you can't. I win.
By the way, can I just say this for a moment? Your reaction to the song "Back in the Saddle Again" was priceless. I to this day, that whole exchange between you and Robert seems so fucking personal.
Well, you know, it was personal, and the fact that originally he was supposed to sing it. You know, back in the saddle again. But
couldn't afford it.
Apparently, there would have been a huge lawsuit, so he just had to speak it instead.
I like it. I like it when it's spoken because it's way creepier.
It's creepier, yeah.
It's so different, right?
Yeah.
It's sort of like hell rap.
Hell rap?
Hell rap?
Hell rap.
What is? I know Hellraiser, but what's
Yeah.
Hellrap?
What's
it's-
hell rap?
It's an early
Because
version
Freddy's
of
rapping,
rap.
man.
Because Freddy's rapping.
Well, we have the Freddy rap at the end of Nightmare 4, like at the very end of the credits that I
Oh, that's right.
We don't talk about that.
Does anybody remember Will Smith's Nightmare on His Street?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ira, give us your spiel and your defense and your case for Nightmare 3.
Well, Nightmare 3 came before Nightmare 4.
And it has Ira.
So,
How can you go wrong?
so it doesn't even compare. I mean, you know, we were the original Warriors, and then it kind of transcended into Nightmare 4, which is totally cool. And I have to tell you, had Chuck Russell let me live, I might have really been pushing for Nightmare 4, you know?
Yeah.
See how that works?
Yeah.
But then you would have died in Nightmare 4 because that's what you never survive a slasher. Like
Has anyone ever survived 2 of those? No.
no.
Only Ken and Rodney, right? And Kristen.
Well, Alice survives at the end of Nightmare 5.
Yes, she
Alice,
does.
Yep.
Alice got
Yeah.
through. Yeah, but that's only 2 because she was a new character on 2. So that's still
That's
1.5
true.
for her.
Probably if she
Yeah.
came back one more time.
Yeah.
One more time. Great sweater, by the way.
Thank you. Also dressed for the part.
Yeah.
What? Wow.
Yeah.
So
You know, it's
Fuck
funny.
Freddy, it's Kelly.
Scarier.
Kelly's coming for your dreams, bitches.
Oh no.
Yep.
Kelly Kruger.
Exactly. A certain ring to it.
KK.
Oh,
Exactly.
I have just a little fun one, a little fun story about that hallway that we made that you died in, right? We needed a hallway. We needed one super long hallway so that we could shoot you, and we put the planks and everything across the top of it and stuff. And we were like under the gun. And when I was a kid, I used to be a plasterer with my dad. And so I was raised plastering the inside of closets. That's what the plasterer's son does. The job. He goes in on the weekends and he does closets, right? And so I get down there with my lead scenic, is the one that does the plastering. I'm saying, look, man, we're literally filming this tomorrow, and that hallway was like 90 feet long, and all we had was just raw flats. That's it, just unpainted and everything. And we had to give everybody time to paint it and stuff, and it had no texture, no look to it at all. And so we were plastering it. We were going to mix the plaster dark green to like give it the start of a look. And my scenic painter, Ox, he comes in and he goes, well, he says, I'm pretty fast at this. I said, do you need help with this? You want me to get a couple of guys over here? And he goes, no. He says, no, I'm pretty fast at this. And I said, well, I've seen you plaster. I don't know. I don't know how fast you are. And he goes, oh yeah. So and by the way, I was the old man because I was like 28. I remember I was like 30 on Nightmare on Elm Street 4. I was 29 on 3 and 30 on 4, and I was definitely the old man on 4.
You were still the old man.
Damn. That's crazy.
You see what happened?
We should have named you. We should have named you Plasterman.
Yeah. So he pulls. So I said, well, no problem. He says, yeah. He says, oh, you see me plaster, huh? You think you could beat me? And I was walking around, and he goes, bah, 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 bah. And I was like, oh, dude, you shouldn't have pulled the chicken on me. I mean, come on. Here's the thing. So we had altogether, it's at least 180 feet, right? And he got 20 feet before I met him. So I went down the other wall. So, because the kid was out of the closet, I went down the other wall, across the return, and all the way back, and met him at 20 feet. Little shit.
Really?
And I do realize that, not only did I beat him, but he won because he only had to plaster 20 feet.
There you go.
Well, he did say he could do it fast. He didn't say he wasn't going to use you to do it.
Yeah, that's true.
He did get it done fast.
He did, yeah.
Yep.
But Peter Chesney did the rigging on the chair, and the way that it turned at the end was masterful. It turns around.
It was so cool.
It was so cool. That chair was really cool.
I have a picture of the two chairs. I think I told you this, that I took from my regular camera. And yeah, I still have it. And I posted it on my Facebook page, on the Ira Heiden page. So you can see the two pictures that I took back in, was that 86? No, 87.
No,
yeah. 86.
86, yeah.
Wait,
yeah,
how old am I?
I don't know. How old am I?
Well.
How old are we here?
Now, just to let everybody know, the two chairs,
Fucking old.
one of them blew up. One of them was made with very light materials and was the one that blew up.
Cool.
And the other's the one that turned and came and came after you.
Right.
And so then you got to get hung And we pulled you up
Yeah.
in the air.
Yeah,
Oh,
no, yeah, he did. Yeah, Ira, yeah, his character did get lifted up in the air.
I had the harness on me. I remember. Yep.
Yeah. This there's one thing is they always attach those harnesses to your balls.
Oh. Wait a second now, Nick. Is that why my scream was?
That's
More effective for
Well,
screams.
the way we figure it, the way that we see it is that it's sort of a method thing.
Oh yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
Of course.
And then
you
you're
know?
definitely put in that method.
Yeah.
You're definitely put in that method.
Yeah.
Speaking of that scene, I feel like throughout Nightmare on Elm Street as a series, the costuming is quite good, except for Ira in your Dream Master Dream. I don't. It's your Wizard Master Dream. Was there maybe it was because of the rig, like your shoulders are about up to here? Do you know
think it
why
was-
or what that was?
I think it's just the rig, like you said, and it's kind of the way it
Set
was
'em up
all
again.
set up. But I
Mhm.
thought that cape was pretty cool. And
Yeah.
and
You know,
It's very Doctor Strange kind of type
Well,
cape. Like, it's very.
but Ken Sagos always told me I needed to keep that cape because it would be worth a lot of money, and I never did. Yeah, I thought it was maybe more Doctor Strange. Yeah, but they tried to make it wizardry. You didn't think so, Kelly?
Oh no, it's definitely a wizard's cape.
Are you shooting me down, Kelly? 30 something years later, and you're saying
Yeah.
no?
Poor choices. It just looks like you're wearing a whole bunch of shoulder pads, which was the aesthetic and look of the 80s, but it just
It was the
work.
80s,
hey,
exactly.
we were just trying to distract everybody from what we did with Nancy's hair.
Oh,
For
boy.
sure. Well, hey guys, I gotta pop off, but I just wanted to be able to jump in and say hi and thank you,
Yeah.
Nick, for bringing me in here really quickly. And
No, thank you, brother. I appreciate you showing up.
anytime,
you.
man.
Thank you, Ira.
I love my fans and I love my Nightmare on Elm Street 3. So
See
Same
you
here.
later, buddy.
Always.
but I'll think about that cape.
Okay, bye.
All right, bye.
Bye, thanks. Oh, God.
Goes out upside down. Whoa.
Oh, boy. Well, I don't know. Maybe we could start wrapping it up. I was hoping for more guests, but this was amazing. Maybe
there was a few more in the queue. They just probably didn't get, or they're stuck in traffic or something.
Yeah,
No.
that's okay.
So
But Mick, you have given us some really great insight into both movies and interesting,
Yes, no, for sure. Both of
points
you.
about journeys and kills. But Nightmare 4 is still better.
I heard that.
He's still here.
I can't get out of
Can't
here.
get-
He can't get out.
Nightmare 3.
In the dream.
He's
Yeah.
lost.
Nightmare
Oh my God,
3.
he's lost.
Don't even go there.
Later, Ira. Bye.
What were you going to say, Jess?
Well, I was just gonna say that earlier, before I was surprised by both Nick and Mick appearing, we were talking about how Nightmare 3 as a sequel is very canonical and wraps up the story nicely, whereas we get to this more imaginative, creative version of Freddy Krueger going from a vengeful spirit to an actual dream demon, who has this now ability to do whatever he wants. Like, he's not held back by his original premise, I guess you would say, or original vendetta.
Right. It's sort of like the version of the Cold War.
Yeah.
It's getting worse. Both sides are getting better armed. We
Mhm.
got better people going in, and yet Freddy is getting stronger. Plus, but I have to say at the same time that there is nothing that you can argue that the Nightmare on Elm Street 4 is the best getting rid of Freddy in the whole series.
Yeah.
It is. It is definitely one of the best like endings to Freddy. The whole the mirror scene, and then of course we get the the souls all like, oh yeah. Now I'm thinking about it, like the hands, the little tiny hands coming out and ripping out his jaw. I was like, I'm really disturbed. And then we all know the Linnea Quigley scene.
Now Nick actually was one of the puppeteers on the little souls, that are screaming and is well
I
known.
have that puppet in my museum, by the way.
Is
Cool.
well known for having stuck his puppet rod into Robert's ear.
Yeah, I was
right.
stabbing him. Didn't realize it because he's supposed to be screaming anyway.
Yeah.
Until he started screaming, "Cut! I'm being stabbed!" Nobody stopped.
So the question is, who has Robert's ear? Nick does.
Nick.
Right here in the other room. Yeah.
Legit.
Yeah, we didn't get into really like the Alice aspect, and I was kind of holding off a little bit when I was hoping Elisa would come in, and then I would fangirl out and just tell her that yes, that is the best ending in Death for Freddy, because so Nancy is great because she's Nancy already. Like, she's already resourceful and smart and confident, and she's that kind of character, and that's what our final girls usually are. They already have those traits inside of them inherently. Whereas Alice is the exact opposite. She is not that type of final girl. She is developed, she transforms, and nobody else, and I've seen a lot of horror movies, nobody else goes through such a transformation in that way. And it's so wonderful to see. It's so empowering to see. And she's just so awesome. And that ending is incredible.
It is actually one of the perfect horror character arcs. It's a character arc that is literally driven by the death of other people.
Grim. Didn't think about that per se. I know, of course, the deaths bring the special powers into her, but I didn't think of it in that way.
That's the whole thing, is she starts out this little demure girl that can't really get out of her own way, but then through the power of her friends,
dying. Yes. Yes, they die, of course. But I didn't think it in such a grim way, and that's really great.
Well,
through the deaths of others, we get
But I do horror films, so.
We should kill more people to gain strength.
there you go.
Yeah.
Maybe not? Anyways.
Yeah, no. I've tried it a couple.
Well, we plan to. I mean, we're starting on something. We're going to be doing the same thing.
We're going to be doing the same thing. Yeah.
Transformative character too.
Yeah.
Those are always the best. And I would say I do love Alice's journey in Nightmare on Elm Street 4. It is one of my favorites.
So the other biggest aspect of the movie, besides all the things that I already love about it, is Alice. And she is truly unique. And after, once the pandemic started, I've watched Nightmare 4 probably 5 or 6 times.
I think it's 6 times now.
Probably. Besides loving it, it actually is like a comfort horror film for me. I love it in so many ways. I could recite it. I've seen it so many times since I was a teenager, probably like 100 times.
You need to read my book.
I want your book. Do I have the privilege of buying that from you in the future?
Yes. Just messenger me, and we're already messenger friends.
Yes,
typing buddies, as it were. Basically, I just take your email and I return an invoice to you, and PayPal, and you pay it, and I sign it, and I insult everybody.
Oh, thank God.
Don't take offense, because he's an equal opportunity asshole.
Nice.
I let me see what I have on the old insult list here right now.
Oh boy.
Because there's always something interesting. Let me get out of Buzzkill, as I call it, and see what's recent. There is a recent one here. So you think, dear Angela, so you think this book is going to change your life? This book couldn't change a light bulb. This is the opposite of self-help. It's closer to self-flagellation, or maybe Or maybe self-flatulation.
More relatable.
Dear Nico, how can you tell? How can you tell Nick was in your yard last night? Your dog has been dissected, and your favorite fern is pregnant. But it's cleaner than it's ever been.
Wow.
Let's see. Another one here. Oh,
Terrible.
Yeah. Some of these. Some of these, I can't believe that I've done some of these. You know?
Well, yeah, some of them are doozies.
Let's see.
Doozies?
Depends on the mood he's in.
Yeah, it really does. This is cerebral. My wife and I have a corner of the house that has a plant in it. It's very green, it's very quiet, and it's very cold. We don't think of it very often, but when we do, we call it Canada.
Wow.
I knew that one was coming.
Oh, come on.
I knew that one was coming.
Really? Dear Arvid, so I heard that you can't read, you have a low IQ, and you soil yourself randomly. Boy, have I got the book for you.
Nice.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So you know, if you
Yes.
yes, you know, who doesn't need that sort of you know, extended
Positivity.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna go with positivity. Yeah, that kind of positivity in their life.
Yeah. I also have to say, besides I've watched this movie so many times during the pandemic because I love it so much. And I was going to rewatch it today, but I was like, I've watched it 6 times in 6 months or 9 months, so I probably don't need to.
Yeah.
But I want to say the watch along screening that you all, like literally all of you did a couple of months ago was the highlight of like my entire pandemic existence, but also my life. It was so awesome.
That's where I know you from. I know this. You were wearing this outfit at that, right?
Yes, I was.
That's what I thought. I kept thinking, man, I know her from somewhere.
Such a nerd. Yes, I dressed up for it, the whole
What a
thing.
geek. Oh, unbelievable. Yeah.
But it was so fun, and you know, the fact that, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street just as a series, you guys are literally an entire family. Like when you join the Elm Street crew, like you're a family. And I love the chemistry between everyone, and you're so friendly, and you go to these conventions and you do all these fun things together, and you're not, you know, ashamed to go back 30 years because, you know, people love this work. Like people love these 2 movies, and we still will for another 30 years. And I'm always just so grateful and happy that like actors or directors or special effects artists will, you know, they're willing and open and happy to talk about old work that they have done, because it's just so special to us fans. So I just really appreciate that so much.
Thank you very much. I have we're working on a film called The House in the Pines.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be directing it, and one of the interesting things about it was I gave them a rewrite of the script, and when they get it, they say, "This is so cool! It's got such a great '80s feel." And I was like, "You mean like a film?" Because I was like, "Oh yeah, I meant that, like an '80s feel."
Like, yes, 80s feel.
Yeah, 80s feel. Mm-hmm. What are you gonna do? I think I think that if I'd had to deliver something else, I might have been pressed. Really. So, there you go.
I don't know, Mick. I love what you're doing with the script and what you've given me to work with. So
Yeah, there you go. Well, you get to resurrect the deer.
yes, I do.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you guys. It's been a lot of fun.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you both.
Yes, and
I'm
thank you.
surprised.
Thank you for surprising my co-host. It was really, really hard for me to keep the secret, but I've been thinking and planning this for months, Jess. So
Oh.
Yes, I'm assuming so. We will talk later.
Yes, we will. Thank you to Nick, really.
Yes, thank you, Nick.
And for getting folks out. And hopefully we can do this another time because I love all of you and you bring me such joy. So.
Anytime.
You know I love you girls. You guys are awesome.
Thank you. All right. Well, Jess and I are going to do like our outro, but we don't need you two for that. So.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Thank you again. Bye.
Nick, you're still here. There he is. Okay. So that was our big, wonderful, magical, excellent Spinster versus Spinster, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 versus Part 4.
Does everyone feel bad for Jessica that she was literally ganged up on? But I appreciate Mick's insight. It was very nice because I also will say that I don't dislike Nightmare on Elm Street 4. I do like it. I appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah.
But I am also a canonical person. I like.
That is fair. Opinions can be wrong, and that's okay.
Oh, wait until we do Never Hike Alone, honey.
We might not do that. Okay, well, we're going to sign off, and hopefully you guys all enjoyed this, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.